A Democratic state senator is bailing just a week after asking voters to re-elect him, taking the power from tens of thousands of Coloradans and handing it to a select few insiders. Donald Trump picks two immigration hardliners to run the mass deportation they say will start in Aurora.
The criminal migrants will go home and America will be reclaimed for Americans.
Latinos in Colorado largely bucked the nationwide trend that had them swinging hard toward Republicans. And on this Veterans Day, our thanks and appreciation to all who have served and are serving still as we meet a vet who's helping other veterans plan their next chapter. Tonight on Next.
Imagine voting for a candidate who wins and then quits the office they just won a week later. Imagine donating to that candidate, volunteering for that candidate, only to have them walk in and out of office in one fluid motion like that Grandpa Simpson meme. Democratic State Senator Chris Hansen of Denver just got reelected to 4 more years, but he's going to leave and not serve the term, headed for the exit. Politics guy Marshall Zellinger explains.
Of the 18 state Senate seats up for election last week, Denver's Senate District 31 was one of the most lopsided. It's a district that covers Denver from Lowry and Cherry Creek to Cap Hill, downtown, and Wash Park. Democratic State Senator Chris Hansen won with 84%, more than 72,000 votes. And he'll be resigning. That's according to a dozen sources in and around the state capitol. Hansen only told me he'll make a public announcement tomorrow. For the 72,000 people who voted for him, they'll now have to wait for a vacancy committee of no more than 121 people to pick his replacement. Of the 100 current lawmakers serving out their term through January, 29 entered the Capitol through vacancy committees. Once the new lawmakers get sworn in next year, that number drops to 19. It's a well-known problem that even those who have benefited from have no better solution.
I think that the people of Colorado deserve to have representation in the legislature. Preventing someone from filling that spot takes that away from them.
Democratic State Senator Jeff Bridges won his re-election last week. He was first appointed to the Senate through a vacancy committee.
Our vacancy process is not transparent.
Democratic State Representative Lorena Garcia also won her re-election. She was appointed to her seat 2 years ago when a lawmaker resigned just after winning re-election, like Hansen will do this year. The Denver Democrats are already preparing for his vacancy, sending out this internal message saying, as you may know, there will soon be a vacancy committee meeting for Senate District 31, that's Hansen's seat, and potentially for House District 6 or House District 2. Here's what that sentence means. The representatives for House District 2 and 6 may run for Hansen's seat, creating the need for a vacancy committee for one of their seats. Democratic State Representative Stephen Woodrow just won re-election in House District 2. He told me he's taking a serious look at running for Hansen's seat. House District 6 voters just chose Democratic Representative-elect Sean Camacho. He did not confirm he would seek Hansen's seat, but told me it's really important that people have a choice. It just can't be the next person in line.
But first, the vacancy committees themselves also have vacancies. And so now, apparently, there is a push behind the scenes to get people appointed to these vacancy committees that might pick the person who is trying to get the people on the committee. So you might think behind the scenes, Woodrow and Camacho's people are trying to get onto these vacancy committees to ultimately vote and say, this is the person I want.
This whole process reminds me of one of my favorite quotes to ever come out of the state capitol, also from State Senator Chris Hansen, in which he was being asked about some backroom deal that they were working on to cut other legislators and the public out of it. And he said, I'm not quoting, he said, this isn't a backroom deal. We do it like this all the time, which of course does not tell you whether or not it's a backroom deal, just that they do it all the time. And somebody's going to say to you, well, this is just how we do it. We do it like this all the time, Marshall.
Sure. We've heard that. We've heard the people who have benefited from this say, well, there's really not a better solution. Because if let's say this happens and then suddenly that seat was blank until you had an expensive special election, you go the entire 2025 without someone representing the Senate for Hansen's district, perhaps, or you appoint someone and then do something special in the interim, like have another election before 2 years from now, because whoever takes that seat, they'll have it for 2 years, even though it's a 4-year term, they'll have it for 2 years, and then that seat itself gets brought up for re-election for the 4-year term. So you've shifted when that seat actually gets picked, because it was 4 years this year, and it's going to be 4 years again in 2 years.
You think he knew he was going to bail while he was running? You don't have to answer that. You can ask him that tomorrow. Thank you, Marshall. Appreciate it. President-elect Donald Trump has picked his man to lead the mass deportation that Trump says will begin in Aurora, Colorado, his so-called border czar. Tom Homan is the former acting head of Immigration Customs Enforcement. He came to Colorado to campaign for Republicans. That's him on the left there. He helped author Project 2025, the conservative blueprint for a second Trump presidency. Homan was part of Trump's policy in his first term to separate families during immigration proceedings. Homan recently told CBS News that the way to keep families from being separated in the future is to deport them all together, suggesting that children with U.S. citizenship might be deported alongside their parents who are here without documentation. And today we learned the architect of Trump's mass deportation plan, the man who introduced him when Trump campaigned in Aurora, is also getting a key role. Stephen Miller, longtime advisor, described by NPR News as, quote, a link between the white nationalist agenda and the Trump team, is going to be Trump's deputy chief of staff for policy. Miller has called for the construction of detention camps for Trump's mass deportation. He introduced Trump in Aurora, calling for an America where only Americans would live.
You have a right to want a country that is of, by, and for Americans and only Americans.
Homan and Miller's appointments will not require Senate confirmation. Today, Republican Representative-elect Gabe Evans ducked questions about Trump's mass deportation plan, just as Evans avoided answering those questions during the campaign. Democratic Congresswoman Yadira Caraveo conceded that race to Evans yesterday. His win makes Republican control of the U.S. House almost a certainty. Evans made immigration the centerpiece of his campaign while avoiding questions about the specifics of Trump's plans. So we asked Evans today about Homan's suggestion to deport mixed-status families together. And we asked what Evans's 8th congressional district, Adams and Weld counties, would look like under Stephen Miller's suggestion that no non-citizens, even people here legally, should be allowed to stay in the U.S.
No, I'm not a big fan of separating families. We have to make sure that we are clearly establishing priorities. And for me, the first two priorities are secure the border, and then make sure that those people that are illegally present in the community and are additionally committing crimes are held accountable. After we've got those priorities done, then we can absolutely continue to have that conversation about what do we do with the millions of folks who are present illegally in the United States, but who aren't committing crimes and who aren't really causing massive problems in our society.
To that specifically, the incoming border czar, Homan, has suggested that their plan to deport non-criminal migrants will require reversing Biden-era rules that order immigration agents to focus on deporting criminals. Side note, Evans's win in the 8th congressional district means that Colorado is going to send 4 Republicans and 4 Democrats to the U.S. House. I checked, and Colorado is the only state in the country where a presidential candidate won by 10 percentage points or more, Harris by 11 in Colorado, yet the opposition party holds at least half of the House delegation. Latino voters supported Donald Trump in increasing numbers this year, despite his racist rhetoric and promises of mass deportation that some immigration experts worry could end up sweeping up people here legally. Yet, as our Angeline McCall reports, Latinos in Colorado did not exactly follow that national trend.
Here in Colorado, of the 3.1 million ballots cast, about 13% of those were by Latinos and Hispanic voters.
They were invested in the outcome, both at the national level and at the state and local level.
Alex Sanchez with Voces Unidas Action Fund worked with Color Latina on the Latino exit poll. 66% of Latinos in the state voted for Vice President Harris, which is about 4% higher than what we saw from Latinos nationwide.
What we're seeing in Colorado is slightly different. The advantage goes to Vice President Harris by about 4%. So we're not seeing the same trends as we're seeing across the country.
The polling shows 9% of Colorado Latinos who supported Trump 4 years ago moved to Harris in 2024, with only 5% shifting to Trump after supporting Biden in 2020.
Because of the unfavorability numbers that Donald Trump has within the Latino community and the fact that 1 out of 3 Latinos believes Donald Trump and the Republicans are hostile. That's a powerful word, hostile towards our community. I think that is why Latinos in Colorado voted at a margin of 2-1 for Vice President Kamala Harris versus former President Donald Trump.
The polling showed voter habits were driven by their top concern, the economy.
Latinas and Latinos are suffering, are feeling the pain, are dealing with the pocketbook issues, or everyday costs of goods, of gas, and wages not sort of keeping up with the inflation are real, and they expressed it in the poll.
Those who took the survey for this exit poll in Spanish had a higher likelihood to vote for Vice President Harris at 78% than those who took it in English, and that support dropped to 64%. Kyle.
Angela, I'm curious what they learned about abortion, because Republicans think that that could be an issue where they could peel off Latino voters who may be more conservative, relatively speaking, on that issue than Democrats as a whole.
Yeah, no, we saw solid support in this exit poll for Amendment 79, which was related to abortion, with 68% of the support there from Latinos for that measure.
All right, Angela McCall, thank you for that perspective. Thank you for Thanksgiving, for thousands of our neighbors. Your latest Word of Thanks micro-giving campaign, between the one-time donations last week and the monthly gifts you're making to the Word of Thanks Fund, is raising more than $40,000 for Need to Feed. That is the annual Thanksgiving dinner in Denver and Aurora that is organized by the nonprofit Struggle of Love. Your micro-giving, $13.6 million worth of it, really does move mountains for nonprofits across the state. If you know of a nonprofit in your community that could use our help altogether, email me, next@9news.com, or you can text NEXT 303-871-1491. Well, the election's over, yet the fallout from the Secretary of State's office leaking voting system passwords is just getting started.
It opens the door for so many additional job opportunities.
After leaving the military, it can be hard to find a job that stacks up in the same way. A veteran is making that transition easier for others. It's been 2 weeks since the Colorado Republican Party revealed the Democratic Secretary of State Jena Griswold's office had inadvertently leaked voting machine passwords. They were on a hidden tab on their website. Now, it's unlikely that the Democrats who run the state legislature are going to do anything to hold Griswold accountable, but there are other efforts to investigate. Griswold says the password leak did not pose an immediate threat to elections, since that was just one aspect of a multi-layer security system needed to get into voting machines. The passwords were changed before the election once that leak was made public. It was days after Griswold found out and months after they were posted online. Griswold backed off her original stance that her office would investigate itself. They've now brought in an outside law firm for a review. The Denver District Attorney's Office says it has opened an investigation, would not talk specifics. The district attorney in El Paso County says his office is cooperating with Denver's investigation. And Colorado's Libertarian Party is continuing its lawsuit against Griswold. They're appealing to the state Supreme Court after a district judge in Denver ruled against the Libertarians' demands that Griswold recuse herself, decommission the impacted machines, and order a hand count. So Denver continues to kind of defrost from what turned out to be the 11th largest snowstorm since record-keeping started in the late 1880s, at least for the month of November. Snowed 75 of the 88 hours between Tuesday night and Saturday morning. 20 inches of snow fell in Denver. Eastern Plains really got the brunt of things, 40 inches in Lyman. Sadly, Kathy, in my neighborhood, by my neighborhood I mean my lawn, the snow receding just shows that I still haven't taken care of the leaves, so it really is kind of a gross situation around town.
But they say it actually makes for good mulch, the moisture and the leaves. Sometimes they say, let it go. So there you go, you have permission. We're making history with Mother Nature this November, our third biggest storm in November on record, and the areas with snowpack staying in the 40s today. We have a fog advisory out east, and we're tracking a storm that may actually bring a little more snow to the high country tomorrow. That storm will not bring much moisture to Denver. West to northwest downsloping winds will evaporate a lot of that, but we'll have a windy day tomorrow, a mild day. 38 now in Denver after a high close to 50. Winds are picking up out of the south, and this is in advance of that storm system approaching. But here's our weekend weather maker still creating problems in the northeast. This system here is some cold air support. You can kind of see speckly clouds back there. That's the system that'll start to bring snow to the mountains tomorrow. Tonight, it's all about the fog advisory. If you're headed east or northeast, watch out. Visibility down to a quarter mile or less east of Lyman and Sterling. Moisture comes into western Colorado, Continental Divide. Other than the fog, Denver and the Front Range dry tomorrow. When that little band of showers comes off the foothills, maybe we get a brief shower. It's not likely, but 20% chance that maybe you'll see a rain or snow shower tomorrow. Temperatures in the 40s now, dropping into the 30s overnight. We got a nice string of days coming up. Again, a stray shower tomorrow, some wind, sunny and 50s Wednesday, close to 60 Thursday. Good looking weekend, and next storm I'm tracking with a chance for rain and snow. That's Monday into Tuesday.
The Biden administration is kicking in $8 million to deliver clean drinking water to Colorado's Ute Mountain Ute tribe. $7 million in federal funding has been set aside to help the Ute Mountain Ute tribe replace 18 miles of pipeline in southwest Colorado. It brings water to the reservation from Cortez. The Ute Mountain Ute and Southern Ute tribes have significant water rights on the Colorado River, but they lack the infrastructure to actually deliver that water to their communities. Both tribes have pushed to be included in a federal program that pays water users for water rights that go unused. But the feds cut out that funding earlier this year.
I know that they are on their way to a job and then to a career.
Helping veterans find a new passion, a new way to serve. Next. A veteran has spent his life serving. He hasn't quit just because he left active duty. On this Veterans Day, our Byron Reed introduces us to a Coloradan who has kept helping with a focus on his fellow vets.
There's a camaraderie there. There's a natural connection.
The will to serve comes from created opportunities.
Many, many years ago as a young man, I fell for the commercials. I saw people rappelling out of helicopters and stuff, and I thought, that's what I want to do.
Gary Smith felt that sense of duty when he volunteered for the U.S. Army.
I was a medic, and so the opportunity to help the population there was just really moving. And so ultimately, it was moving enough for me to decide to stay 22 years. How is everybody?
After the military, Smith made the transition to civilian life and now helps create opportunities for others at Goodwill.
We are looking at trying to reduce the barriers they have to success in employment, and in this case, to attending school. You guys have student council elections going on in here. Is anybody running?
Smith is now the Chief Mission Officer for Goodwill, Colorado, where they recently opened a new education center in Aurora.
So the Excel Center.
A high school for adults over 21.
There are over 300,000 adults without a high school diploma in Colorado. So this is a real opportunity to change some lives of Coloradans.
The school helps students earn their high school diplomas and veterans get back on their feet.
Coming out of the military was and gaining civilian employment is a real challenge. And we provide workforce development programs that last year impacted about 40,000 or so Coloradans through job placement, job education.
Smith hopes the high school is a second chance for students.
I know that they are on their way to a job and then to a career.
And a way to fulfill his second call of duty.
And I'm just thrilled with the impact. I can see the impact that we're having on the lives of Coloradans.
For Next.
It's just very heartwarming to see these adults getting a second shot at education.
I'm Byron Reed.
Goodwill's Excel Center in Aurora opened this fall as one of Colorado's first tuition-free, in-person adult learning high schools. We will be right back with your feedback next. Thank you. Oh boy, a lot of feedback tonight. We start with DJ in Frederick, who asks, can Colorado Governor Jared Polis stop mass deportations in this state? It's a great question, DJ. We spent some time on this already. The short answer is no, he can't really stop it, but it's also unclear by what mechanism Trump's administration will go about trying to do this, right? He's first said it will be local police doing it. That would be against Colorado law. He's then said it will be the National Guard. Polis's National Guard is not going to do it unless Trump were to federalize the Guard, in which case it's not in Polis's control. The other suggestion was the military. That also would be outside of Polis's control. Shirley says, my favorite jacket yet. Is it new? It is, Shirley. Thank you for asking. She says it needs a name. Snowflake? Snowflake.